Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News. It is Tuesday, May 20th, and we are going to talk about President Trump's new take on Section 8 housing. Okay, so as we say before, we try to break behind the headlines and find out what the truth is. And we are now on YouTube. So if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you. We'll probably last about 3 or 4 weeks like we did last time. Otherwise, it's Rumble and BitChute forever. Okay. Today, we're going to be digging into a topic that hits home, literally, the housing policy, specifically President Trump's new approach to Section 8 reform and why it's not a budget shift, but a moral reset for working class America. All one has to remember is when President Trump came into office, he was talking American Renaissance, America's golden age. So let's rewind for a minute. Let's go back to 1974. Section 8 housing was created as a way to help low-income families, this is pretty much a straight quote, get out of the projects and into private homes. The idea, you pay 30% of your income toward rent, and the government picks up the rest. Okay, so that sounds fair, right? But like most government programs, especially one that's going to be able to prey upon the poor, it grew bloated, inflexible, and ripe for abuse. Today's wait lists are years long. Some recipients may never leave the system, and landlords in many cities won't even touch it. We've gone from helping people get back on their feet to building a permanent dependency class. And there are a number of reasons for that. As one could imagine, if I am in a big city and I want to continue to have my people elected into office, it's easier to keep these people as permanent voters, permanently dependent upon my people, the Democrats usually. Okay, now enter President Trump and his 2026 reform proposal. This is not about pulling the rug out from under struggling Americans. It's about laying down a new rug. And this is what people still don't get with the president. And I feel that it is lacking in the administration's address. It should be brought up every time they talk about something, and they never do it. And it really annoys me particularly and others who are supporting what's going on out here. And this new tapestry, we'll say, is jobs, is independence, and his dignity. And this is what Trump's plan includes, okay? It's a 40% cut in federal rental aid. I know that sounds bad, but let's get through this, right? And it shifts the funding to state-managed block grants, a 2-year cap for able-bodied adults because assistance should be a bridge, not a lifestyle, a focus on U.S. citizens first and housing support. Amazing we have to bring that up, but you know who used to run the country, and the removal of bloated programs like CDBG that shovel money into broken systems. Now, predictably, the left lost its mind. Maxine Waters and Cory Booker have said this is cruel, racist, and anti-poor. Of course they do, right? Because they're really defending is their voter base of dependency. If anybody's anti-poor out there, it's Maxine Waters and Cory Booker, because they force their constituency to roll around in garbage and deal with violent criminals every day just so that they can continue to bring in the money, right? It's the same playbook every year. There's fear, there's victimhood, there's racism, and endless spending with no results. Go out and see how much money is spent on this program at this point, and then talk to people who are actually in Section 8 housing and see if it sounds like it works out, right? So here's the truth. This is not about cruelty, and I hate to use this word. It's about courage, and it is difficult, and I will say I know this. I know where we're going to be going with this. The courage to say this system is broken, and we're not going to keep funding failure. But there is a different purpose of courage in this. People who have been 2 and 3 generations involved in this welfare state, or 4 generations, sometimes more, involved in this welfare state. It's going to take courage to get off of these programs. It's going to take courage to go out and try to get a job, right? It's going to take courage to do that kind of stuff. To fail, if you fail, you're going to fail probably more than once, right? The government has failed you, and you don't want to admit it, and then you've probably failed yourself in a number of ways. We all have done that. I personally will say I have failed myself any number of times. All right. But you got to keep moving. If you stop moving, that's when they are going to get you. Right. So we're not going to keep funding failure. We're not going to keep, you want to talk the plantation and keeping people down on it and this and that and the other thing. That's Section 8 and most of the welfare system. Okay. We don't want Americans on vouchers. We want Americans in jobs and in homes that they own, okay, that they buy with paychecks that they earn. So when somebody comes home after a hard day, you can sit down in their living room, whatever they want to do, it's their house. They want to do whatever, it's their house. If their kid puts a hole in the wall, they're going to put a hole in the kid because it's their house, right? Trump's broader vision, which is the reshoring of the manufacturing, reviving energy industries, building infrastructure, means that millions of working class Americans will no longer need Section 8 because you're going to make more money by far than you ever would have under the Section 8 program, right? Housing assistance becomes a last resort, not a multi-generational entitlement. And that's a real win. It's a moral win. And if people don't see it that way, or a lot of people are being pushed to not see it that way, what does that say about the people that are pushing you to believe, that you can never do better, that you can't be a better person, that you don't have to live a certain way, you don't have to live in a certain neighborhood? Well, if you all get up and move out of Newark, Cory Booker is going. Who's going to take care of Cory Booker, right? Who's going to take care of Spartacus? If everybody says, I'm tired of living here, I'm tired of giving my children up to street violence or drugs or tricking or getting a bullet in the head, right? And it all stems a lot of times from either the public housing system or Section 8. Okay. And it's not your fault, but that's where people decide to put these things because they're not going to destroy a house that costs a lot of money by putting it on Section 8. Let's not kid ourselves, right? So the next time somebody tells you that Trump is cutting housing, tell them he's cutting the need for housing aid, and that's the most compassionate policy of all. What does that mean for you? Then people say about the housing crisis, look at our video that we did earlier. It's back a few episodes. There is no housing crisis. It's neighborhood desirability crisis because they've been pushed out of all these other areas due to high crime, drugs, evilness, just plain old bullshittery, right? You're being pushed out of those areas because who wants to raise their children? Anyone with a sliver of intelligence says, I don't want my kids to be raised in this garbage can. I'm going to find a way out. And they can, and they do. But let's make it where it's a little bit easier to get out, right? It shouldn't always be a trap, right? Admiral Akbar, it shouldn't always be a trap. So that's what we've got going on. That's what he's trying to do. If you want to see it any other way, that's up to you to do. But I will tell you, these are all interlocking things that you see going on. Trump's overall vision is to make the United States what it was in the late 40s and early 50s, right? The dominant country on the planet where everybody can get a good paying job if they want one. If you want a good paying job, you can get one. As I mentioned, this is the one I brought up in the other video on this topic. When my grandmother was raising 3 kids by herself, she was always able to find a job because you could walk down the street and there'd be a factory that were taking people in. She had 1 grade of education. She could barely read. And she was able to take care of 3 children because she would go to whatever factory and she would work there until they needed to, until it was over. There was a lot of things at that time, maybe I need people for 8 weeks to do whatever, people for 10 weeks, but people were always hiring. And that also gives you mobility. You don't like this job, I'll go down the street and I'll work for the other guy. Or maybe I'll open my own business. I'll save up my money from working here and I'll start my own business because I see an opportunity. And then, I understand the housing all came back, probably around the Dust Bowl was the original. If you see Grapes of Wrath or something like that, or read Grapes of Wrath, which would be a challenge. It's all there, man. It's all there. It's a matter of wanting to do it. The guys like Cory Booker, Maxine Waters are the most evil racists because they are inflicting this hardship on their own people. There are a lot of poor white people out there. There are more poor white people than there are black people. It's true. It's proportionality in what gets done. All right. So the white legislators don't actively try to destroy the white communities that they're dealing with as much as the Maxine Waters and the Spartacuses and all those things, because who are they going to blame it on? Right? They can blame the victimization and the destruction of black people in their community on white people. The white guys have nobody to blame it on. Right? What are they going to say? The Asians made us do it? It's bullshit. Take a look at this. Go to the site, southfloridaconservative.com. We always try to have paper. We will give you things to look at. You will see where we're coming from, and hopefully, don't buy into it. Try, as I say, trust the process. Trust this process for the remainder of this man's term, and I will tell you, you will probably be better off financially at the end of the day. But that's just me. So otherwise, have a good day, and we will talk to you later on. Bye.